concerned about the age of this person. The bottom line is it's too late for any party. One of these two candidates is going to be the next president of the United States. And we should be concerned and committed. Yes, you're talking about informed, but the reason why I'm not going to rise and fall on the age of the president is because we have vice presidents who are to be prepared if at any point the president is unable. That is what is freaking these people the hell out, folks. And so they're selling this story about we cannot elect them, and they're both aged, as far as I'm concerned. So that can't be an issue for one party and not the other. We have two aged candidates, and it is our job and responsibility to make sure that there is a farm team and someone in play and moving and getting ready for the next step. That doesn't get ceded to somebody else. So that informed electorate only gets informed by people like us who do spend an inordinate amount of our time in the weeds on this. I'm listening to it now. I would be happy and proud to have any one of these young folks, on a stage, or say in the bunker with me, to have that conversation. But don't get it twisted. This is not like it's a vote for nobody is a vote for somebody.
That's right.
This is the same election where in Missouri, women who are pregnant are not by law allowed to get a divorce. This is how crazy it has become. And it is our job to fight through the crazy and not get confused about what our mission is. That there is a whole movement that has been awakened whose job is to make sure that we keep Black people away from any seat of power. And they only win if we let them win. So I'm gonna stop there because a second, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, you're right where we need to be because Jayda Jeffery, when we talk about keeping Blacks away from power and discounting, interrupting, frustrating Black voters, let me turn for a second to Fulton County, Georgia, and Fani Willis. Okay, there we have a Black woman that was elected by a majority Black folks to be the prosecutor there. She's doing her job in prosecuting former President Trump and some other people because they tried to steal Black votes, tried to steal Black voters' votes, right? And the state and citizens of the state of Georgia. But yet, as Fani Willis is battling to prosecute that case, she's now being prosecuted. They're putting her on trial to talk about a romantic affair and some other, googly gog that they're trying to work up on her. But I've got to ask you, Jayda, and I've got to ask you too, Dianne. When we're dealing with Fani Willis, would the same thing be happening with the Black man if she were Black? Would it be happening to a white man if it was white? And more importantly, what does this say about the voters that put Fani Willis in? Do they now raise up on their backs and say, no, we voted for her? She's ours. We elected her to do the job of prosecuting criminals and people that are accused of crimes. So we're going to stand with her. What's your take on this, ladies? What's your take? Jayda?
Well, I'm also here, Daryl. Yes. Hi, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I am here in the mighty city of Houston, Texas, and happy to be joining the show. Just hearing Dianne just carried on. Yes, Dianne, yes. And so happy Jayda's here. Who else, Daryl, is on our team this afternoon?
Well, Barbara, we have Jayda, we have Adarian, and we have Cameron from the Gen Z.
We got the crew. We got the right crew. All right.
So what is your take on that, Barbara? What about Fani Willis? Talk to us.
Oh, come
You're
on.
an attorney.
Come on.
You're an attorney. What's going on?
First of all, Fani Willis is one of the strongest Black women prosecutors in the country. And one thing we know about Atlanta is just rich with some of the most amazing African-American attorneys, period. She has been doing and undertaking bold aggressive RICO prosecutions against a number of people, including a very popular rapper, gangster type that has, caused, considerable problems because it's such a complicated case. And when she brought this case against Donald Trump, former president, she knew what she was doing. She based it on the facts. She told us what? I mean, those of us who have been following this, the minute this was announced that he had asked for these votes, within a week, she had announced that she was going to prosecute it, that she was going to investigate it and see if it were worthy of being referred to the grand jury, for the grand jury to make a decision as to whether or not it should be prosecuted. But she made it very clear that she wasn't going to let any criminal action happen in her jurisdiction and it not be pursued, to make sure that justice was upheld. And all of a sudden, because they got nothing to say about the criminal charges, because they're guilty, they come up with this feint of trying to distract everybody by talking about, black women's VVs, as I like to say. Anyway, and that's all they care about is our sexuality, what we doing, who we making love with, who we know. This has nothing to do with the case, folks. Nothing. There's no allegation that somehow she unduly influenced this man, that she hypnotized him, that she did something to him where he would go along with the grand jury's indictment and somehow misinterpret it. There's just nothing here. It's just all nothing but a smear. It's an attempt to smear her like they try to smear every black woman who has a mate. It doesn't matter if they're married to him, doesn't matter if they are dating. All they care about is what are black women doing. Remember, the first accusation from the Trump camp, just in case people forgotten it, the first accusation, they said she was dating a gangster. Don't you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. That was the very first thing they said about her, was that she was dating a gangster and that she was an immoral woman on that basis. So all of this has been calculated. They're just throwing up everything they can to see what can stick or blind people to the facts. The facts are the indictments. And she's right. She's not on trial here. But they always make successful black people, they always put us on trial at some point in their minds.
And that's a good point. Darian, you're down there in Georgia, and you certainly have a front row seat to what's happening with Attorney Fani Willis. What is the temperature down there? I mean, are black voters saying we voted her in, let her do her job? And people forget that the judge that's there, Judge Scott McAfee, who's the one over top of this case, he too is on the ballot for re-election right now, as is Fani Willis, Adarian. What's the temperature?
Well, to be honest, with that being right down the street from me, I haven't heard as much as I think I should in terms of the support, and then I believe as we get closer to the election, I do believe that things are going to start to ramp up. But from what I have understood, they have been standing behind her, and we are standing behind her. I'm not a voter in Fulton County, Georgia, but I am in Lamar County. But there is a outpouring of support from black voters across the state because, again, this is just what you would call an aversion to what's really going on. Because we know what she's doing. We know what she was asked to do. We know what she has set out to do. And all this is a distraction and just another attack on black women. And so I challenge every African-American man who's listening to this and every African-American man who will listen to this that's in Georgia and across this nation that we need to stand behind our black sister that is doing this good work. It doesn't really matter to me the political affiliation of who she's attacking or what she's doing. She's doing her job, and she needs our support. And the fact that she's on the ballot again, I need everybody to turn out and do exactly what we did when we got her in there the first time, or they got her in there the first time. But the temperature down here, it's a little, let's say, it's not mild, but as the closer we get to November, I do expect some support to come behind her, because in Georgia, you can't attack a black woman for too long. You can only say so much before folks start cutting up. So yes, the temperature is rising, though, Daryl.
And Jayda, I gotta ask you, because we talked about Florida, and Jayda and everyone else that's on the panel as well. We focused in this conversation on Fani Willis. But, it's the same that's going on in New York with Letitia James, who's going after the former president. And she's, undergoing all kinds of threats, and they're coming after her. It's the same thing that's going on with Alvin Bragg, who's in New York and also prosecuting the former president, and they're coming after him. It's the same thing that's happening in D.C. with Judge Tanya Chutkan, and they're coming after her and trying to deal with her. At some point in time, just help me out here, Jayda. At some point in time, do you rise up on your back legs and say, I voted them, and this is my vote. I wanted them in. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. This is what I voted for them to do, and they're doing it. In the case of Judge Tanya Chutkan, she was appointed by former President Obama. But isn't that sort of, at least that's my feeling about it. Jayda, how about yours?
Well, most definitely, as you said, not everybody was appointed, like some involved in the case, in the case right now in the various states. But what we're seeing right now is something that we kind of already expected. And what I think is happening is we're so used to seeing specifically Black people, but even more specifically Black women being criminalized or, just being discriminated against and knocked down because of their personal lives. We're not allowed to separate our personal and professional lives. It always has to be one thing at the same time, all the time. We're expected to be perfect. And being that we're so used to seeing Black women in particular being knocked down and scrutinized, it's like the people that voted them in and the people that supported them, it's like, oh, okay, well, we knew that was going to happen. They're used to it. They're desensitized to that, and they're not able to see the bigger picture. It's not only the people that are prosecuting those like Fani right now, they are using that as they know that that's something that they can do, and it'll be looked at as okay because it's been done for so long. So there's not as many people, rallying behind it like, well, I voted for her. She's doing her job. That's not what's happening because we're so used to that. And we kind of knew that was going to happen. They were going to find anything that they could possibly do. But because these are Black individuals, it's normalized, and people aren't doing that. And we're about to get to the point, like Adarian said, there's only so long, there's only so many times that you can continue to disrespect a Black woman or just a Black person in general, especially in Georgia where she is, before, like you said, Daryl, we stand up on our hind legs and say, we voted her in. This was our choice, and she's doing her job. So I don't know how many more hits on the piñata it's going to take for that to happen, but I think that is why it has happened as long as it has, because we're so used to seeing that.
But Dianne, you're both really involved, with the politics of Massachusetts and with Black women attorneys. And didn't it happen up there as well with the Black woman prosecutor in Massachusetts, Barbara?
Well, I wanted to talk about Monique Worrell. Everybody remembers she was the Orlando area state attorney for Florida, and she was elected by the people because they wanted a progressive prosecutor.
Uh-huh.
She had the nerve to prosecute some cops, and Governor DeSantis, had the nerve to fire her from her job that the people elected her to, and fired her because she was doing what she needed to do. This is people. There was no allegation of conflict of interest. He just didn't like the fact that she was progressive and was keeping people out of jail instead of putting them in jail when they didn't need to be put in jail. She came in there and she said, I'm going to stop all this mass incarceration of Blacks. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to make sure that every case we take is something that's really serious and violent. We're not going to do low level, somebody just happened to have a joint and I'm going to put them in jail forever. She said, no,